I actually started the research. I've in the sort of gap between finishing my PhD and having a job, academic job. So I was working as a bartender, and there the situation in the workplace wasn't sort of ideal, and so I actually kind of convinced myself, well, if I'm here doing field work, I'll feel better about everything. So I started out just sort of taking notes of things that were happening to sort of justify my idea that I was doing field work. And the more I sort of collected things, the clearer it became that there were really interesting things going on that I um, wanted to look at more carefully. Part of it was that I had, when I started working there, I had recently spent a year in Guatemala doing dissertation field work. And so um, I actually felt sort of really more comfortable with a lot of the people who worked in the kitchen and with the wait staff. And uh, so seeing sort of the other side of what was going on in the restaurant um, really affected the way that I sort of looked at everything, so that I got sort of perspectives from my friends who only spoke Spanish that helped me sort of see things that were happening from the side of the wait staff. I felt like the the positions that my friends were put in, uh, people needed to know that
Hmm.
um, and know that the effect of their words actually sort of had a negative impact on people. And uh, since I wrote the article, I've seen over and over cases where the similar sort of situations lead to serious miscommunication in contexts that, like healthcare or in the criminal justice system, where people just use Spanish in this way. And for example, I was um, with a woman who was pregnant, and the nurse told her that she needed to drink 8 vasos of agua a day, and she didn't know what eight meant, right? So it the idea that just throwing in some Spanish passes and you made your effort um, is not enough, and the consequences now I feel are much greater than what I sort of said in the paper. Um, I've actually done expert witness work with in cases where a lawyer sort of conveyed information to a defendant in mock Spanish, and assumed that the defendant would understand what he was saying. Um, and so, for that person, uh, it had a really detrimental effect in terms of uh, how they were treated by the justice system. I don't think it's the racism isn't necessarily recognized or intentional, but it's but the way it gets used definitely sort of reproduces racist assumptions and racist ideologies beyond the sort of categories that uh, Jane Hill talks about. I think just in general, the idea that, um, especially in the United States, the idea that Spanish is just like you speak English and you put O's on words and there's nothing really to it, right? Is a really detrimental language ideology. The ideology that the language is um, sort of just that you can reproduce it by just changing a few words of English or um, changing some suffixes uh, is a really sort of negative ideology that has a major impact, right? I think it's to me, it's more like appropriation than overt mocking, but it has sort of uh, the same effect of sort of what you appropriate um, creates an image of who you're appropriating from. It clearly isn't about the intent of the person who's appropriating, because in the mock Spanish case, you see sort of no negative intentions at all, but really negative effects. Um, what I sometimes call a discourse systemic racism, right? It's part of the institution of how talk proceeds, how interactions proceed, and the assumptions people have with the language that they use.